On to this, Human Settlements and Infrastructure MEC Lebogang Maile has released the report of an investigation into loans issued by the Gauteng Partnership Fund. 4 months ago, Maile ordered a probe into loans offered to Nonkwelo Investments that's owned by Deputy President Paul Mashatile's son-in-law. The loans were granted when Mashatile was MEC of Human Settlements in the province. It's alleged that Nonkwelo Investments benefited from GPF loans totaling at least 30 million rand between 2013 and 2017. Our reporter Theodor Mashele joins us in studio now. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for keeping track of this for us. A lot of money we're talking about. What's the latest?
Yeah, well, the first thing that the MEC elaborated on was the fact that it is not actually 30 million rand. The scopes within the loan agreement were changed, and it was changed by the committee that was in charge at the time, well, the trustees, the board of trustees that were in charge at the time. But the board of trustees that are in charge now in terms of human settlement did excuse themselves from that decision and say at the time they were not in charge, but now they have systems in place. But firstly, he started by elaborating why this probe was needed. This is what he had to say.
In the absence of transformation within the sector and projects funded by GPF on 27 July 2010, the GPF board approved the Entrepreneur Empowerment Property Fund program. The objective, and please note the date, 2010. 2010, I think that's important. 2010. So I think that's important. The objective of the EEPF program was to encourage entities owned by historically disadvantaged individuals to participate in the affordable housing rental market through ownership of residential rental portfolios. The board authorized the investment committee at the time to approve a maximum of 7.5 million loans per project for the acquisition of land and or buildings, and an additional 7.5 million for development costs. Therefore, in line with the delegations of authority, the investment committee had authority to approve funding of EEPF projects up to 15 million per project. Full background details of the factual metrics on the approval and awarding of loans by the GPF are contained in paragraph 2 of the final investigations report.
Theo, what's being said about the role in all of this by Deputy President Paul Mashatile?
Of course, that's part of the entire controversy around the thing. I mean, the fact that his son-in-law could actually be part of this Nonkwelo company was part of the controversy to say, what is the relation? But however, the MEC did elaborate the fact that within the report that was released, there was no mention of the Deputy President at all. And that was something that did raise an eye. I did ask the MEC to elaborate a bit more. Why has the Deputy President not been questioned about this, since, after all, at the time, he was the MEC for Human Settlement.
Exactly.
So that is exactly why, in the first place, this was a bit suspicious. But the MEC did say that in terms of the investigation committee that has been set on the case at the moment, they found no need to question the Deputy President. In fact, they found that there was no conflict of interest at all, which was quite an interesting answer. This is what he had to say about it.
And the report is clear that there is no conflict of interest, meaning the Deputy President was not implicated. The Deputy President was never a part of any process. So that's why in the report, and that's an independent report, so we didn't say to the investigators who should they investigate. So it means they investigate, not investigate, so who should they interview? Meaning they interviewed people who were relevant for the information they required. So, and that's why in the statement there's no mention of the Deputy President, because the report doesn't. I know this might have been triggered by a report of News 24. But and as you see, I'll take you to the terms of reference. In the terms of reference, one of the things we had asked the board to look at is to determine whether there is a perceived or actual conflict of interest. So we have asked the investigators to look at that matter. It means they have asked, looked at the matter.
Theo, I'm a bit flabbergasted. I don't personally see how this cannot be relevant.
Yeah.
His relation to the Deputy President, I mean, with theories of nepotism and all the allegations being levied, how can it not be relevant?
Well, I mean, even with what the MEC has just said now, the fact that they did not find any reason or any conflict of interest, I did question in terms of does the MEC have power, or rather the board have power to then question the report itself to say has the investigation actually probed enough into the issue to see. And the MEC did say that they believe and trust in the committee that they have set on the case at the moment, and if they find anything alarming in it, they will then come back and revert back to the case. But I mean, first of all, there are many things to probe about this. The fact that how exactly did the scope of the loan agreement shift from 15 million rand to 30 million rand? There's just inconsistency in terms of numbers within this. There's the idea that only 7 million rand was spent by the company, and then there's the idea that the scope was way more than 30 million rand, and everything seems to be shifted to the fact that there was a change in the trustees, and the fact that there's new trustees. And what the MEC basically was saying together with the CEO was the fact that the new trustees have new mechanisms to ensure that this type of thing does not happen again. But the question still stands, what really happened in this deal, and was it merely just a form of misunderstanding? Because what this report has found, or rather what is in this report, has nothing to say with the fact that there might have been some form of corruption within this instance.
Theo, as a reporter, lastly, this left you with a lot of questions. I can imagine our viewers as well. Will those questions be answered, or is this it?
Basically, the MEC said they will go back with the board and sit down and look at the report. That today was merely them giving us the report as it came out from the committee that was investigating. But they're still going to sit down, and they did say that they themselves are not happy with everything in the report. So there will still be more investigations when it comes to the outcomes in the report, and they will come back to us if ever they find. Then they emphasized if they find it. So now we are just waiting on this if. And there wasn't really a clear answer from the MEC when it came to the question of implications that could implicate, the Deputy President. There was no clear answer when it comes to that, and how exactly there was no conflict of interest in this matter. There was no clear answer. He left it into the committee that was actually investigating this, which really raises one's eyebrow in terms of what is really going on within this report.
Absolutely. Well, if they get back to us and they have more questions, Theo, I know you will be there to ask the hard-hitting and sometimes uncomfortable questions, because ultimately we want to get you the answers. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you keeping an eye on that for us. Still to come.